All right, strap in, everybody. Today we are going deep, deep into the heart of Brazil. We're going to explore the rise of the PCC,
Yeah,
one of, if not the most formidable gangs in the world.
definitely one of them. Yeah.
And we are so lucky to be pulling from this fantastic article by Ann Sadie.
Oh, yeah. She is a great investigative journalist.
Yeah, and she just shines a light on this organization,
Yeah.
really gets into it. It's just amazing. It's a story. It's not just about gangs. It's not just about violence. It's about power, right?
That's right.
Corruption, resilience. Like, how did this group go from, like, protecting themselves in prison
Uh-huh.
to being this global empire?
Exactly. And it is really intriguing how they got their start. I mean, you really have to understand the brutality of Brazil's prison system
Yeah.
to see where the PCC came from. It was
Yeah.
back in 93.
I mean, 93, that's not that long ago.
No, it's not.
But, I mean, they didn't start off wanting to be kingpins, did they? It's all about just surviving.
Right? Yeah, you have to imagine, like, if you're in this system that is just designed to, like, break you. I mean, you're facing threats from, like, all sides.
Yeah.
Like rival gangs aimed at the guards, right?
Corrupt guards.
Corrupt guards, yeah. So the PCC was really just a way for these inmates to band together,
Right.
and just protect themselves.
So it was like twisted self-help,
Yeah,
but in the worst place possible, right?
yeah, exactly.
And then it just morphed.
And that's what's so fascinating about them. Like, they had this, like, need to survive.
Right.
But it transformed into this huge ambition. They had a strict code of conduct. There was this intense loyalty, among members. And soon they weren't just contained to the prison anymore.
Right. And, Sadie's article talks about how by the 2000s, they were really controlling huge chunks of the drug trade. I mean, especially like cocaine, right? Was that like the tipping point?
I think it was a gradual process, but the 2000s, yeah, definitely saw them, like spreading their wings. They weren't content with just São Paulo's prisons anymore. They
Right.
went into Rio, Paraná, even the north.
Wow.
Yeah, they were into everything.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
I mean, legal mining, smuggling, you name it.
I mean, the speed is incredible how they grew.
Yeah.
How did they do that?
Yeah.
Going from like prison gang to nationwide, like that fast.
I think a lot of it comes down to how they're structured. They're organized, obviously, but it's the decentralization that makes them so different.
Yeah.
It's not like a typical pyramid. It's
Yeah.
more like a network.
Yeah.
Lots of little cells all connected.
Right.
Yeah.
So less about a single leader and more like power spread out, right?
Exactly. And that makes them super hard to take down, right?
Right.
Like, you might bust one cell, but the others are still going.
Like a hydra.
Exactly. SETI uses that analogy, like chop off one head, two more pop up.
Hmm.
And it really captures that resilience, like how they adapt.
Yeah. Yeah. And, being decentralized, I mean, that helps them, spread into different parts of society, right?
Absolutely.
Like Sadie was very clear that this isn't just a street gang. This is like woven into the fabric of the country.
Oh, yeah. And that's one of the things that's really disturbing about the PCC is like how much they've gotten into legitimate systems, like the police, politics, businesses.
It's everywhere.
They've got their fingers in everything.
Yeah.
And that gives them such an edge, It's like they've got information, resources, protection.
Yeah.
And in some areas, they can basically do whatever they want.
It's like, imagine, for you listening, it's like, imagine you're trying to fight someone that could be anywhere, right?
Right.
And they could even be in the systems that are supposed to stop them.
Yeah.
I mean, that is scary.
Yeah.
Chilling, really. You just never know who's on the payroll.
Exactly.
It's just crazy.
It really is. It really is. And the thing is, it's, their influence is everywhere. And it's unsettling. But it's the human cost.
Yeah.
That is really concerning. We can't forget about the people.
Right.
This isn't just about statistics.
I know. Reading Sadie's article, you really see the scale of the impact. Like,
Yeah.
we hear about the drug busts and the violence, but the toll it takes
Yeah.
on people is just massive.
It is. Businesses have to pay protection money or else,
Right.
families get torn apart.
It's just like whole neighborhoods living in fear.
And that fear, that's how they control everything.
Yeah.
They manipulate, they exploit. Sadie talks about how they prey on kids,
Yeah.
especially in poor areas.
Right.
Offer them something they don't have, like belonging, like a purpose.
It's so awful. It's like a terrible cycle.
Yeah.
That's hard to break.
Yes.
It's like, it's almost like the same conditions
Yeah.
that created them in prison, right?
Exactly.
Like that same desperation,
Yeah.
lack of opportunity. It's like now they're using that to recruit people on the streets.
That's a good point. It all goes back to the systemic issues, doesn't it?
Yep.
Like, they didn't just appear out of nowhere. This
Yeah.
is a product of inequality,
Right.
poverty, lack of opportunity. I mean, that's Brazil in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah. But, Sadie, she doesn't just focus on the bad stuff.
No.
She talks about people like fighting back,
Right.
like the Brazilian people are resilient. She talks about community leaders,
Yeah.
setting up like youth centers
Right.
in like some of those dangerous favelas. Can you talk a little about like the challenges these places face?
Sure. Favelas, I mean, they're often ignored by the government.
Right.
Basic services, infrastructure, they're lacking. So it's like a perfect place for the PCC to take over.
Yeah.
But, you have these people who are just so brave.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
fighting back. They're starting schools, programs for kids,
Yep.
like giving them somewhere safe to go. It's like they're saying, no, PCC, you're not going to win here.
I loved the story about the woman in Rio
Oh, yeah.
with the youth center.
She's amazing.
Like she is just like staring them down, She's not letting them take the future of her community.
And she's not the only one.
Right.
There are so many people like her all over Brazil.
It's inspiring.
It really is. It shows that change is possible.
Yeah.
But they need help.
Right.
From the government, from everyone, really.
Yeah. And Sadie, she argues like education. That's the key.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
If you can give kids a chance,
Yeah.
a real alternative, a better life, maybe then.
It's chipping away at the problem.
Yeah. But I mean, it's not just a social economic thing, right?
No, of course not. We have to talk about the law, too, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do we actually dismantle them?
Yeah, we have to. Yeah.
It's a multi-pronged thing.
So like we need both.
Yeah.
Like social programs, economic stuff, but also like cracking down
Exactly.
on their operations.
We need investment in social programs, education, but also like serious law enforcement efforts.
Right?
Go after their money, their leaders,
Right, their whole network.
Yeah.
And we talked about this earlier, but this isn't just a Brazil problem anymore.
Oh, no, not at all.
Right. It's global. They've gone global.
They have connections all over, cartels in Colombia, Peru, Mexico.
It's like they've expanded so much.
Yeah, cocaine, other drugs,
Yeah.
moving it all over South America,
Wow.
and then into Europe and the U.S.
And there's even suspicion that they're laundering money,
Oh, yeah.
like internationally.
Big time. They're using like all these complex methods to move their money around.
So we have to address the problems in Brazil, but this needs like a global response too, right?
It does.
Countries have to work together.
Absolutely. Share intel, coordinate, try to stop the flow of drugs and money. That's what's fueling them.
It's like so interconnected.
It really is. It's a huge web.
Yeah. And I think like even with all this, we can't forget the people,
That's right.
the stories, the lives affected. This isn't just about taking down some organization.
Yeah.
It's about like making a future where communities can like thrive without fear.
Absolutely.
Wow. So we've really gone deep, haven't we?
We have.
I mean, from those brutal beginnings in the prisons to like global operations.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It is, but I mean, what now?
Yeah.
What happens next? Like, is this empire, are they going to keep growing or can we actually dismantle them?
That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's a tough one. I mean, these groups, especially one like the PCC, they just adapt, right?
Right. They're like constantly evolving.
Exactly. But based on what we know now, there are a few paths, I think worth thinking about.
Okay. So like worst case scenario,
Okay, worst case,
they just keep going.
yeah, they get stronger, deeper roots in Brazil.
Through violence.
Oh, almost certainly. I mean, they're going to expand, fight for more territory,
Yeah.
more resources, and the drug trade, that just gets worse.
Yeah.
More instability, more corruption.
And globally.
Well, if they keep evading the law, those international connections,
Right.
they could become, a major player.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like on the world stage of crime.
And they've shown they'll use violence, right?
Yeah.
Intimidation to get what they want. And with those cartel links,
Right. In Latin America and beyond.
yeah, it could disrupt markets globally, fuel instability,
Yeah.
undermine the rule of law, and not just in Brazil.
That's pretty grim.
Yeah.
So like, what about a better outcome?
Okay, so more optimistic.
Yeah. Like, can we actually dismantle them? How
It's possible,
Okay.
but it's not going to be easy, right?
No.
It's not going to be quick. It's going to take time.
Yeah, so like a long-term plan.
Yeah, and a lot of different strategies all working together.
Okay, so like what kind of strategies are we talking?
Well, for one, you have to go after the root causes, right?
Like what creates this environment in the first place?
Exactly. So poverty, lack of education, no jobs.
Right. Give people other options.
Exactly. So invest in social programs, education, economic development.
Right. Like give kids a real chance, you know?
Exactly. But you can't just focus on that, right?
Right. You can't forget about the crime itself.
Yeah. Law enforcement has to step up too.
Okay. So what needs to happen there?
We need good intelligence, right?
Yeah.
Disrupt their money flow, hit them where it hurts.
Make it harder to operate, right?
Yeah. And the courts, the justice system, it has to hold their leaders accountable.
Right. But that's tricky, isn't it?
It is. Because you have corruption, right?
Right. Within law enforcement, even the government.
And the PCC, they exploit that.
Yeah. They use it to their advantage.
Exactly. And then there's the global piece, right?
We can't forget that.
We can't. Those connections, that's a huge part of their power.
So what can we do about that?
It has to be international. Countries have to share information, work together, coordinate their efforts, target those networks.
It's a lot.
It is. It's a huge task.
But it sounds like we need to address the causes, the crime itself, and work together globally.
You got it.
It's like a three-pronged approach.
Exactly. It's a huge undertaking.
But it's not impossible.
No, I don't think so. It's going to be tough, but with commitment, with everyone working together,
Yeah.
I think we can weaken them, make a real difference.
I mean, this deep dive has just been, like, eye-opening.
It's complex, isn't it?
It is. I mean, it's not just, like, cops and robbers.
No.
It's, like, this whole web of social stuff, economic stuff.
Yeah, and you have to look at the human cost, too.
Right. The impact on people's lives.
Exactly. And you need all these different approaches to really combat it.
Well said. And, you know, for everyone listening, I think, like, this fight, it's not over.
No, not at all.
But if we understand them, you know, their history, their methods, all the factors involved, then maybe we can actually do something.
I think so.
Make a future where these communities can thrive.
That's the goal, isn't it?
It is. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of the PCC. It's been really, really insightful.
It's been a pleasure.